We have a second example. This one's got a few little twists that the one we did in class didn't have. That's a negative 13. Process doesn't change. The mental gymnastics is a little bit more intense. Process is exactly the same. I'm going to start by noting what a, b, and c are. Easy for me to identify. A is what's in front of x squared, b is what's in front of x, c is by itself. And I just need to know to start off by figuring out what a times c is and what b is and writing those two things down. So a times c is going to be 12, and b by itself is negative 13. I want to think about all the things that multiply to make this. And I'm going to try, of all the things that multiply to make this, find two of them that when combined make this. Sometimes you can just look at it and know right off the bat what it's going to be, but let's pretend like you don't. Here's the process you want to follow. You always start with 1, because 1's always a factor of this number, and then that number itself. And then you check to see, does 2 go into 12? And it does, 6 times. So you write those down. And then you check, does 3? Does 3 go into 12? It does, 4 times. And then I check 4, but I've already got the factor pair that has 4, so these are all the possible things that might multiply to make positive 12. Oh, what are they? No. If it's making positive 12, what I really know is that the signs of the number are the same. So they're either both positive numbers, or maybe it's two negative numbers. It could be negative 1 and negative 12, negative 2 and negative 6, negative 3 and negative 4. I'm not going to list all those, but I am going to keep this in mind. If I'm multiplying to make a positive number, these have to have the same sign. So they're either both positive or they're both negative. Furthermore, we want them to combine to make b, which happens to be a negative number. The only way to get a negative number by combining stuff when the signs are the same is if they're both negative. So now I'm going to look, considering like as if these were all negative. And you don't need to rewrite it, you just need to think it. And which of these factor pairs will combine, add together to make negative 13. And that's this guy. This is our winner right here. And maybe you knew that from the very first step. You could have gone there. As soon as you find that winner, we're ready for step 2, which is to rewrite this expression, but break up this middle term in terms of our winner itself. So I'm going to write down the 3x squared. I'm not going to write down negative 13x. I'm going to write down negative 1x minus 12x. Make sure you put an x on both. They both need the x. And then plus 4. We're ready for step 3. Step 3 is where I'm going to go ahead and split this right smack dab down the middle and look at it as if it's two separate things. I'm going to factor each thing separately. So in my brain, what I'm thinking about is this 3x squared minus 1x. Looking at these two terms, I'm trying to figure out a common factor, something that they both terms have. Look at the numbers first, 3 and 1. 3 and 1, there's nothing in common. But they do both have an x. So I'll factor an x out. I'll open up some parentheses. And what's left on the inside? Well, if I wanted to get a 3x squared, the question in my head is, what would I multiply this by to get 3x squared? And of course, I hope you're thinking 3x. What would I multiply this by to get a negative 1x? Hopefully you're thinking negative 1. It's a reverse distributive property. It's pretty good. The stuff in here has definitely nothing else in common. Nothing else can be factored out. And that x that they both had in common is sitting out here in front. For the second term, I'm looking first at the numbers. Let's do this in blue. So I'm going to have negative 12x plus 4. Looking at those numbers, 12 and 4, is there anything that they have in common? And you might be thinking 2, but you got to think bigger than 2. Because in this case, it is 4. 4 goes into both those numbers. Another thing I want to mention is anytime this lead here is negative, pull out a negative. So I'm going to pull out a negative 4. If I don't pull out a negative 4, then the next step's not going to work out. So I can teach you in another video what to do if that happens. But right now, if you just followed my advice, anytime this lead term is a negative, at least pull out the negative and then whatever else is left. So I'll factor out the negative 4. And then it's the same questions. What would I multiply this by to get, what would I multiply this by to get negative 12x? I would multiply this by 3x. What would I multiply this by to get positive 4? What do you multiply this by to get positive 4? Since this is negative 4, and we want a positive 4 over here, we'll do negative 1. So I want you to see the reason why I wanted to pull out that negative is because I know that for step 5, these are supposed to match. So if those are supposed to match and I hadn't pulled out a negative here, this would have had to have been, this wouldn't have been able to be a positive 3x, and I want those to match. All right. That being said, we're pretty much done, right? These are exactly the same. So maybe we go back to that Pear Deck analogy that I had from earlier. I'm thinking about this the same way we thought about that one from the Pear Deck that was like this. If I gave you guys something like that, most of y'all knew to take the a out and write that as x minus 4. It's just instead of a's, we have 3x minus 1s. So I'm going to have a 3x, not an a out in front, but a 3x minus 1 out in front. And then x minus 4 on the inside. Done. That's my answer. That's this guy written in a factored form. And then if I want to check it, I'm going to go 3x times everybody over here. I'm going to take the next term in that parentheses times everybody over here. I'm going to look at that expression. I'm going to combine like terms. And then I'm going to feel oh so proud, because what I'm looking at is when this is multiplied out, does match my original problem. That's it. I'm done. I'm going to do one more like this if you think you need the help. Just hammer away at it. Keep trying. You can do this. I know this part in here gets a little muddy, so maybe just watch one more, and hopefully it'll make more sense.